Peace, y'all. Welcome back to another episode of Silver Tongue Gorillas. And on this video right here, gentlemen, I'm going to be breaking down the hypergamy theory and how Rollo Tomasi likes to reach and connect everything to hypergamy. And you can listen to my take and his take and leave your comments below. Peace. When people want to make a point, they usually find things, and this is the problem in academia, the problem that we have to realize, that usually when you want to prove what you're saying, you find evidence that backs up what you're saying. But in order to have a more broader look on life, you also have to look at how and when your theory was disproven in order to have a more round judgment. And you have to ask yourself as an intellectual, what was the difference then and what was the difference between in these two instances? You know what I mean? And can we learn something from both instances? Okay? So right here we have Rollo Tomasi breaking down war brides, riots, and the red pill to prove the fact that yes, women are hypergamous, and yes, women are disloyal. They go with the alpha male. They go with whoever the winner is. This is a part of his whole messaging. And it's not that it's invalid, because if you have research, then you can prove its validity. The question is that research, is that the only example? Can you find examples that go against what you're saying? Let's listen.
The Nazi, the SS officer, whatever, remember hierarchies, right? And at the end of the war, when the Nazis were defeated, what happened right after that, and this is not just in wartime Holland, it was also in France and Belgium and a lot of other Western European countries, is they would drag those women out into the public square and they would shave their heads. And they would shame them and they would spit on them for fraternizing with the enemy. And what this is, and I'll say this so everybody feels fair, right? Yeah, you know what they did with the guys who are fraternizing or who are allying with their occupiers? They just shot those guys. Again, well, and maybe I shouldn't be so flippant about that, because that's part of the war bride's dynamic. We kill those guys who align themselves with an invading tribe. And that's what the Germans were when they occupied France. And the article I have here is from World War I, because they did the same thing then too. In France and in Belgium, they would simply kill the men, because sperm is cheap and eggs are expensive. So we say we have this kind of like innate separate standard of justice for women. We already see this in society right now, where statistics.
Yeah, see, and this is also my problem, right? Automatically, right, the fact that we're reading about war brides and riots, we focused on female nature, but at the time in which you have war and you have female nature acting like this, fraternizing with the enemy, at this particular time, the last thing people are really worried about during war times is relationships. Everything boils down to survival. Everything is in survival mode during war. And it's one thing to look at how we are during war, but it's another thing to look at how we are during times of prosperity.
Women serve less time for the same crimes that men do. We have a separate standard of justice. It's provable.
The problem that I have with Rollo Tomasi talking about the sentences that men get versus the sentences that women get is that we already know this. This is obvious. All right, this is obvious. But the thing is, you pay the cost to be the boss. So once we start looking at things affirmatively, like a MGTOW, then we ask ourselves, why would I pay the cost to be the boss if I'm not going to be the boss? What should be focused on is how you're going to become a boss, not about and how you are going to put things in a way that will allow you to become a boss. This is the work Rollo Tomasi doesn't want to do. So basically you're making it seem as if we in a situation that we can't get ourselves out of, but we are in this situation that we can get ourselves out of. So once we know the truth, the thing is to stop digging that hole. But Rollo Tomasi never says this. Rollo Tomasi says you need to learn game. You need to learn. He never says you need to go to the court steps and fight for the marriage laws to be changed in every single state.
Empirical. You cannot argue against the fact that when we have a woman on trial for the same thing that a man does, statistically, she gets less of a sentence for that. She gets the punishment is not the same thing. Here's another good example of that. Women got their heads shaved. We presume that they were immature.
See, now he's going to tell us what we presume. This is why I say it's all a theory. Maybe nobody presumed that they innocent. You just said out your own mouth that they get punished, but they get a lesser punishment. So how is that presuming that somebody is innocent?
And we presume that they didn't know any better because they're women. They don't know any better. They just get with the guy that looks like he's going to be on the winning side. Well, all the guys in my town in Holland or France or Belgium or whatever, all those guys are beta males automatically because our occupiers here are the ones that are kicking their ass and will probably kill them anyways.
See what I'm saying about him setting this whole thing up for hypergamy? And basically what I'm telling you is that back in Haiti, the Haitian rebellion, the women fought with the men. The women also fought. So we have to look at those times where the women aligned with the men, where the women were a part of it. But the women only unleashed their wrath once they were pushed to a certain position. Case that he's making about war brides, what he's basically doing is using that to prove his own theory, right? Underneath all of the facts and all of the things that he's saying about men, he only really gave one fact, that men get more harsh punishment. And I'm pretty sure you can research about some of the war and find that some of these things are facts. But why? Why is he talking about it though? He's talking about it because he wants us to understand his theory on alpha male, beta male, and female hypergamy.
And once they win, and it's looking like they're going to win in 1942, 43, I don't know.
The women get with the
winners. It looks like they're going to win, so I'm going to fall in love with the guy who is my oppressor, my conqueror, the conquering tribe. Now, we call it a nation, it's Germany, right? Or whatever. I'm sure you can find other examples of the World War II is easy because it's, such a big deal. But I'm sure you can find other examples of the war brides dynamic, and that's really where it came from. And then you've got the guys who, in Japan, wartime Japan, even the GIs who went over there found their wives in Japan, brought them back over. That's how you got the war bride documentary. So it's a thing. It's really a thing. So women will always have that sort of I talk about this also in book 4, but there's an innate protector dynamic that men have for women. It's something that we evolved for because it was for our species. It was beneficial. It was an adaptation that was beneficial for our species.
Okay.
Kept people alive. And in a way, in a cruel, ugly way, sometimes it promotes for a stronger. It used to, anyways. Promotes for a stronger next generation. Well, we're still living that out today in 2020. We're still the same critter.
I just want to say, I don't really know if Rollo Tomasi is here to help men or if he's here to gloat and seem smart, because I don't see him having conversations. I don't see him dialoguing with other men. I only see him dealing with his book and, so far on YouTube, whenever he comes out with videos, I don't see him dealing with any male issues. It's one thing to talk about concepts, but then it's a completely different thing to give advice. You know what I mean? And he stays away from advice. He's like, you figure it out, which is a cop-out, right? But yeah, we all of these things are in the book, you know what I mean? And you can read the book, but at the end of the day, it's a YouTube video, and it's just different YouTube videos to, I guess, promote his ideas. But the way that he comes off is like a phony, because at the end of the day, I thought this was about helping men, you know what I mean, through their situation and helping men to become so this is why you was on So Suave, helping men to become conscious of how to do certain things and certain things to look for. All right, in order to be able to do that, you gotta almost go down to like Donovan Sharp level and deal with certain things. Even though Donovan Sharp too is in love with his ideas, I do believe that yes, he helps people, and that's what he's genuinely in it for. But with Rollo Tomasi, man, he seems like right now, from what I'm gathering, that he's not really in it for the gentleman. He's really in it for Rollo.
That we were back then, even in World War II, World War One, Old Testament, Vikings, all that good stuff. So that's where the war brides dynamic comes from. That's why you see women today who will be happy to align themselves with whoever the dominant male is. Now, I have to also point this out too, is that because guys will say, well, isn't there a paradox here? Well, say, because I talk about this a lot, is the alpha widows. And when women have sex with a lot of guys, they tend to be less able to form emotional bonds with a guy in the long term. So women who have above a certain amount of sexual partners right now tend to report less marital happiness, and they also tend to have a higher incidence of divorce, because they probably, and this is my theory, so just bear with me, this is completely unscientific, but this is the Rollo Tomasi theory, is that those women had more access to find out who, or to have a comparative situation of who was the most alpha lover that they had in their past, and compare that with all of the ones that come after that guy. So now we're taking the war bride dynamic of the guy who comes in, kills everybody, takes the woman, drags the caveman back to the cave, kind of back to the tribe. Now you're my woman. I'm going to breed with you. You better have a son, because that's what I'm looking for. That whole crazy, ugly, hypergamous situation right there, it seems to a lot of people that goes against the alpha widow dynamic, meaning that women tend to pine for the guy who made the most significant alpha impression in her life. So when guys say, well, strippers have daddy issues, they don't, or they come from, if we had better dads, blah, 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 blah. Okay, there might be something to that. I'm not going to say that there isn't, but the guy who is the asshole, the guy who is the guy who is the jerk that she complains about, and you're like the emotional tampon beta guy, you listen to all this, and you're like wondering, well, how come she doesn't see all this? I don't understand why she doesn't get this. Well, it's not in her evolutionary best interest to use reason. Not in that situation. The guy might be an abusive son of a bitch, but to her lizard brain, to her emotional state, she keeps going back to that. Why do women keep going back to abusive men? Well, because in some level of consciousness, she thinks she can't get any better than that guy. He is the most dominant alpha, the most dominant man in her life. For girls,
But see, this is all, once again, this is all his alpha male dominant, being alpha widowed, and all of this. See, gentlemen, once again, he told you it's a theory, and so it's fine. But the question becomes, okay, if all of that's true, let's just say all of that is true. She wants the most dominant male, then how do you as a male stay dominant? By staying in your domain, pretty much. And if she want to be in your domain, she can be in your domain. If she don't want to be in your domain, she don't have to be in your domain. All right, that's really as simple as the jerk dynamic goes. When it comes to beating a woman or being the most alpha lover or whatever the case may be, hey, gentlemen, when it comes to dealing with women with high body counts, hey, there's definitely a question you have to ask yourself when it comes to that. You understand? Why? And the question I feel like you have to ask is, why would I invest my time, energy, and effort into that type of woman? Dominance and passiveness. All right. What we have to understand about most men, Lao Tzu said, the soft overcomes the hard. When you have a primary woman that you deal with, you are automatically going to look weaker to her no matter what. Not because of hypergamy, because universal law says that the soft overcomes the hard. This is why, gentlemen, we have to learn how to stay hard. Okay? There are things that we have to do to stay hard. At the same time, just because you stay hard, it doesn't mean that she is necessarily going to appreciate it. But you don't stay hard so that she can appreciate it. You stay hard because it's a necessity for you to stay hard in terms of being erect mentally, being erect in your physically and emotionally. Okay, so but at the same time, gentlemen, what I'm saying to you is that we gotta understand that when we talk about being dominant or being passive, we automatically put ourselves in certain positions, and we have to learn how to be more dominant. Okay, this is what I teach. I teach men how to be more dominant. All right, but also, if you marry a woman that won't allow you to be dominant, right, meaning that she's going to fight you on it all the time, really when a woman is trying to take over, that means that she doesn't believe in you. All right, and or it means that the energy that exists there is an energy that you can't lead. It doesn't make you a bad leader. Once again, universal law. We have to understand Michael Jordan was a great basketball player. That don't make you a great baseball player, a good football player. Everything, like in life, in order to be exceptional, you have to figure out what you are exceptional at. Everybody's not gonna be exceptional at the same thing, even if they put in the same time, the same energy, and the same effort. All right, and so when you get into a relationship with a woman, certain women you just cannot lead. Okay, so the reason why I said I think Rollo Tomasi may be a beta male is because the way that he talks about females, and he doesn't really, like, at the end of the day, gentlemen, we can't control nobody but who? Us. That's all we can do. All right. Now, in terms of power, right, we can have a lot of power, but we can't have power with people that don't give us the power. Okay. Never weaken your, never underestimate the position that you take and how it weakens you. Because guess what? Guess who doesn't care about any of this? The side nigga. And when we say that women are having illegitimate babies, we basically saying that they basically slept around. Or what does an illegitimate baby mean? Because like right now in society, if America was to be captured, if we were to go into war, we may have a lot of illegitimate babies in terms of bastards, you know what I mean, born without the father being around. But the reason why we would have illegitimate babies is because American men said, because American men was like, I don't even want to deal with these women. And based on my research, this has occurred multiple times in history where the men said, I don't even want to have nothing to do with the women. So it wasn't about being dominant or passive. It was more so about caring and not caring. But once again, we also have examples of women going to war, fighting side by side with their men. So how about we talk about these things and open up the perspective so we could, because ultimately right now we focused on the losers and what the women did with losers. Well, what was going on what was happening when the women were helping the men be winners? There's evidence of that.
Daughters who have had a strong, dominant, masculine, hopefully conventionally masculine father, that is the benchmark for her to compare men to. I've said this in book 3, as a matter of fact, in The Red Pill Parent, is that you don't teach kids things, you show kids things, you demonstrate behavior, and you do it consistently. And you want to have...
All right, see, there we go. Now we've collapsed 2 words, okay? So I like to do this. When we say, let's go back.
Is the asshole, the guy who is...
You don't teach your children things, you demonstrate them. That's not true. See, we gotta understand the difference between teach and demonstrate. All right, you teach your children and you demonstrate to your children. You do both. Children have to be taught things that you cannot always demonstrate, and you have to demonstrate things that you can't always teach. Come on now.
Is the guy who is the jerk that she complains about.
Now you're gonna ask me for examples. I homeschool my children. I'm teaching my children mathematics. I'm teaching my children. I'm doing sex ed. All right. I'm teaching social studies. So I'm teaching my children about the Haitian rebellion and how the women was whipping ass. Okay. So these are things that I can't demonstrate, but I can teach. They see how I kiss their mom. I can teach them about relationships, and I can demonstrate. Most things in life you can demonstrate and teach. Come on, man, with the games.
And you're like the emotional tampon beta guy. You listen to all this, and you're like wondering, well, how come she doesn't see all this? I don't know.
Never be an emotional tampon, gentlemen. Come on, that goes without saying.
I understand why she doesn't get this. Well, it's not in her evolutionary best interest to use reason. Not in that situation. The guy might be an abusive son of a bitch.
See, now we talking about women and what's it and reason being in their best interest. Something was said like this in The Manipulated Man, but it had nothing to do with hypergamy, which is why I made another video called Hypergamy is Overrated. In her book, she said that it had everything to do not with an evolutionary interest, but with a slave-master dynamic. With a slave-master dynamic, meaning, why would I do it when I can get my man to do it? Okay, this is not an evolutionary thing. This is basically you are a woman making a choice. All women don't think that way, okay? But a lot do. As a man, you have to understand that your job is not to free your woman. Look, man, I'm out. Peace.